first things first. So I'm going to go off the fly here, and I'm just going to pick out red flags that immediately stand out when you're picking a boxing coach for the first time, and you want to verify, are they teaching me correctly? Because let's face it, if you start anything new, you might start learning a new language, you might start learning marketing, you might start learning anything. It could be any kind of thing that you might be learning, and you don't know anything about this topic or this subject. So you might be learning something from the scratch, from the beginning, in the wrong way. And that's quite bad, because let's say you're learning a new language and you're learning it in the wrong manner, or you're learning the wrong punctuation, you're learning everything wrong, or you're getting bad habits while you're learning it. Those habits are going to stay with you throughout. And the same thing applies with boxing or anything in the fitness industry, even, where if you pick a coach or a mentor that's going to teach you, and they're teaching you things in the wrong way, especially when you start out, those bad habits can stay with you throughout, especially if you want to start getting good at boxing, or you want to develop your skills in boxing and you're new to it. It's going to be very hard to iron out these mistakes as you go on and progress through boxing. So how you start is in essence how you're going to finish in boxing, or how you're going to continue. So it's very important you pick out and select your boxing coach wisely. First things first, you go to the parks of all around the world, you see people holding pads. All right, you'll see a boxing coach. If you got a boxing coach, it might be a boxing coach outside in public that trains you. I train a lot of people outdoors. I do a lot of pad work outdoors, and you want to make sure that the coach that you've got, you might not be in a fancy gym like this. You might not have a good gym where you can train. You're training with your coach. You might be training outdoors, which is fine. There's a lot of good coaches out there that are coaching their students, but I do see some coaches that don't know what they're doing, and I'm gonna show you how I see some of these coaches hold the pads. Now, when you've got a boxing coach, if they're holding the pads, make sure they're holding the pads near their face like this, in their boxing guard themselves, right? Because you want to simulate, or they're trying to simulate, a real situation on the pads. The pads, they're for accuracy, yes. They're for fitness, yes. But they're also for learning, developing, and simulation, okay? So it's literally a simulation of a boxing match, a fight. Also, you're developing your skills while you're on the pads. So if they're holding their pads like this, that's a good start, right? They're holding their pads. They're in their guard themselves. They're in their position themselves. That's a good sign. That means your coach knows what he's doing. All right. But unfortunately, I have gone to the parks around, and I've seen coaches hold pads like this. This is terrible, right? You see coaches hold pads like that for the uppercut, hold pads out here for the hook. Yeah. And I've got even a Muay Thai background as well, like kickboxing, Muay Thai, and boxing background. And the same thing applies to that too. I've seen coaches hold the Muay Thai pads in the worst way, holding it out like that. It's terrible, right? So your coach, if your coach starts off holding the pads out like this, that's a red flag. All right. Very important. The first major red flag you're going to see when you're with your boxing coach is the way they hold their pads. They got to hold their pads literally in a boxing stance, simulating realistic pad work. Okay. Notice they're going to be simulating the fight, so they're going to be doing things which are going to be quite basic but important. They're going to be saying, throw the jab. Yeah. You're going to be working the jab. They're going to tell you, keep your balance. They're going to be nitpicking you all the time. This is another red flag if they're not doing it. So if they're not nitpicking all the time, if they're not picking on little things constantly, then that means they're just glossing over, and they don't really, either they don't really care, or they don't know what they're teaching anyway. So they might, and you might even feel like sometimes you're throwing a hook or uppercut, and you're like, why am I off balance? And they can't explain it to you. They can't explain the mistake you're making. They can't show it to you themselves. Then there's something wrong there. All right. So that's another red flag, is when they're not nitpicking you enough. They're not constantly, especially if you're new, there should be loads of mistakes and flaws that they should be able to pick up on and constantly correct. And even if you're advanced, they're going to be constantly correcting you. All right. So that's another big red flag if they're not nitpicking you. All right. Another one is they have to literally, what was it? I forgot what it was now. But that nitpicking is one. So another red flag, okay? The other red flag is if they're basically upscaling and upselling themselves and telling you something that they've never done. Okay, this is very easily verifiable. Okay, so basically, there's professional boxing, there's amateur boxing, and there's white collar boxing. And some people do white collar. White collar is basically people that are neither amateur or professional. Okay, amateur and professional are quite high level when it comes to boxing. You're actually in there and you're boxing, okay? You're actually getting things in. You're fighting, you're training every day. Amateur and professional is serious business. White collar, a lot of people do it for fun, okay? White collar is not amateur and it's not professional. So if someone says they're a boxer, if they say they're a boxer but they've done white collar fights, that is not boxing. That is just a bit of fun. And it's basically white collar is catered to people, the general public, in order for them to feel what it's like to be in a boxing ring, a venue, an event. And it does look like it might be an amateur boxing. It does look like it might be professional boxing. But the people that do that, they should not be coaching you on how to box because they are not boxing at a level which is translatable to you. Okay? So now you've got amateur boxing and you've got professional boxing. If your coach has a white collar boxing, he's not a boxing coach. Simple as he might be a personal trainer, but he's not a boxing coach. All right, that's a big red flag. If they say they're doing boxing and you find out it's white collar, that's a red flag. All right. Then you've got amateur boxing and professional boxing. Now, amateur boxing, you have amateurs that are boxing all the time and they're better than some professionals. Okay. There are a lot of amateurs out there that are better than professional boxers. Okay. Unfortunately, professional boxing now, especially sometimes, you get guys that have never even boxed amateur turning professional and just doing it for Instagram or TikTok. They're just doing it for the boost of the ego. They've not really gone up through the ranks as the amateurs. They're not really put in the hard graft as an amateur, but they can sell tickets and be a professional. Okay. I mean, that's going to be a lot harder for you to verify, right? But with the amateur boxing scene, as long as your coach has had maybe like more than 5 or 10 amateur fights, I think he'll know how to coach you a bit. Definitely, you want a coach that's done more than 10 amateur fights because you're still a novice if you had under 10 amateur fights, in my opinion. Now, this is where boxing is subjective, right? A coach, some coaches have never even boxed before, but they've been around boxing their whole life that they're able to coach, if that makes sense. So, like when I grew up, I grew up in amateur boxing gyms, and a lot of the older coaches that were there coaching me, they've never boxed, but they grew up in boxing. They've been in a boxing gym their whole life. They knew the mechanics. They watched it day in day out, and they actually helped me improve so much. So it is very subjective in a way, but you can verify it in a way if you just ask. Just ask, and you can also say, "Can I see? Can I see you've done boxing? Can I see your videos of you boxing amateur? Can I see your professional boxing fights?" Also, if they're a professional boxer, you can literally go on boxrec.com, boxrec.com, and check if they've got a professional boxing record. All right, that's a very easy way to verify if your boxing coach was a professional. So these are the questions you've got to ask. Have they actually done this for real? And that's going to be important for you to know if you're learning authentic boxing or if you're just being taught by a personal trainer. So you get a lot of personal trainers that want to get involved into boxing. They see that it's very easy to hold pads, but they're not actually teaching you the correct way, the fundamentals and everything else. Now, this being said, there's a lot of boxers out there, professional boxers, high-level amateurs, whatever, and they can't coach. I'll be honest, there's some boxers out there that are good, top level, but they can't coach. Coaching is, you need to find a coach that's got the right blend of everything together, all right? So this is not a video of just pointing out cowboys in the fitness boxing industry or pointing fingers at people. This is just an informational video for you to try and piece the puzzle together on, and you can tell when you're learning things right, when they're spotting things, when they're nitpicking things, when they're coaching you and things are working, when you're maybe you do sparring or maybe you hit the pads, things are starting to come together a bit and you're feeling more balanced and stuff, then you know your coach is coaching you the right way. Okay, so that's it for this video. I don't want to go on too long. I hope you found that quite understandable, quite informative, because boxing is not, I like to say, boxing is not black and white. Boxing is grey. There is no clear cut format. It is a bit grey, but when you're learning, especially from the basics, especially from the beginning, you want to make sure that your mentor, your coach, is going to be there for you and is teaching you the right way. If you have any questions, you can write comments in the video. You can send me an email. You can check out my website, slick-box.com. Check out my Instagram, my TikTok. I'm making courses for you guys as well. So if you wanted to go through the courses that I've got lined up, check them out. See you in the next video. Peace out. God bless. Peace.